Hello, Sylvia. Thank you for inviting me to be part of Design Without Borders. Hello, everyone. My name is Ana Margarida Carvalho. I'm a Portuguese jeweler based in Lisbon. Since I can remember, I travel as much as I can. Having an art and science background, I find myself mixing all those experiences when researching materials and ideas. Color is the most persistent factor in my pieces, which tend to be very different from series to series as a result of my endless curiosity with what I come across. Today, I'll briefly talk about the In Paradisum series, from which these two titanium brooches and aluminium ring can be seen in Budapest. I'll focus on where I got inspiration from, my development process, and how this series paved the way to new opportunities and subsequent projects. One important factor in this series has to do with my upbringing. I grew up in Lisbon in a building surrounded by a big garden with sparrows singing all day. Also as a child, I spent my vacations by the beach and in the countryside. A few years ago, I moved to the center of Lisbon. Although there are gardens nearby, there are no trees on my street, and I can only see buildings from home and my studio. To make things worse, I don't have a green thumb. I miss having a wild garden on my doorstep. Besides traveling, one other constant in my life is music. I sing in choirs since I'm 17. I belong to an amateur symphonic choir with a vast repertoire that performed from Carmina Burana to Porgy and Bess, to name a few. When this collection first came to fruition, I was busy giving classes at Yrjö, an art school with a jewelry department in Lisbon, working in my studio, and intensely rehearsing for concerts, namely Messiah and St. John's Passion. In December 2017, around Christmas, I was invited by Galeria Reverso in Lisbon to have a small showcase of new work in February 2018. It was the right time to bring nature into my work. Fold forming, a technique I was interested in for many years, had many points of contact with origami, of which I had made some incursions in the past. Furthermore, fold forming allowed me to work fast, but also to imprint an organic feel to the pieces. I started with copper and aluminium, but soon ventured into titanium. Copper was one obvious metal for fold forming, but aluminium and titanium allowed me to have bigger and lighter pieces. Also, I could anodize titanium to easily introduce color. These were the first samples I showed my gallerist. While developing this body of work, I did quick studies and tried to record as much of the process as I could. Also grouping early drawings and pieces. This was very important, as in music we have variations on a theme or different interpretations of a tune. Small changes in the similar combinations can radically change the appearance of a piece. These were the first 10 pieces from the In Paradisum series that were shown to the public. In the beginning, I did a variety of shapes, some of which were not uniquely fold-formed. But soon, I decided to keep challenging myself. I focused just on weaving and fold-forming the metal. For that, I combined groups of the same shape, my basic units. Sometimes combining them in the same way, just forging the metal in a different way from piece to piece, other times by small changes in size or shape of my units. These copper brooches were clear coated to be colored. This outsourced finish fitted with the titanium pieces I already done. These aluminium rings were also clear coated to be colored, because I could not anodize them at a time. Coating copper or aluminium with the same color also allowed me to have different shades in colors. While working in other projects, I kept expanding this series with new pieces mainly in anodized titanium. This gave me the freedom to do all the process in my studio. Early on, I did this necklace in copper. As you can imagine, it's very heavy. Soon, I could not stop myself from dreaming of a lighter version of this necklace. So I did it. I find it much more in tune with my initial idea of bringing nature into my work and being influenced by the music I was singing at the time it all started. Even though it's very organized in its construction, with its 90 plus anodized titanium units, it's wild as nature and lively as Baroque music. Parts of this series were already shown in several places in Europe. This allowed me to expand the number of people who know my work, and also grow slowly the number of galleries that represent me. For the first time, I also had the opportunity to collaborate with a musician as a jeweler by lending some of my rings for a production of Allurement Trio to mezzo Katia Morezo. Another first was the editorial photo shoot in 2021. The exposure of this series granted me 2 awards. It is always nice to have the recognition of my peers, but the last one in 2020 was especially important to me given the current pandemic and all that came with it. I continue to expand this series from time to time, but a lot has happened since I started in 2018. Although I've done other projects, I still wanted to explore the In Paradisum theme. I started In Paradisum 2 in 2019 with that in mind, after a trip to Peru. This time, I wanted to explore it in a new perspective and not to restrict myself to a technique or material as I've done before. The animals are present in a humorous way, replacing the rhythm of plants. The pieces are mostly made of aluminium to keep their weight light, a thing that is still very important to me. In 2021, I began a new version of this theme that is currently being produced. This time, there will be only a small change in the subject of the series and a new approach on how the metal is handled and finished. You can follow the progress of the new In Paradisum 3.0 and my other projects on Instagram. With this, I finish my presentation. I hope you liked it. Thank you, everyone.